Vintage Packard Bell color Roundie television remote set. This uses an ultrasonic remote. It's fully mechanical like Zenith. You rotate the knobs and they whack a little tuned resonance bar. Kind of a nice early American design. Of course, Packard Bell, made right here in Los Angeles. This has the manual degaussing that Packard Bell loved. They called it ICP, or instant color purification, where it basically whacks a electromagnet through a capacitor, and the taper, charge-off taper, the electrolytic capacitor is what tapers off the degaussing. Made in Los Angeles, California. These were kind of built like, well, we'll take a look at the inside, but they were kind of built like RCA design with Zenith construction. Cabinet's pretty nice. In this video, we're going to try and fix this up and make it reliable so the owner can watch old TV programs on it once a day or once a week or whatever. We'll do the cataract. So we'll pop the CRT and do that at some point. This video is just going to be an analysis video. We'll go through it and see if we can just baseline it and check the CRT, get it to work. You know, making one of these totally reliable is kind of an oxymoron. It would be like making a 1950s or 60s car fully reliable, and that doesn't really happen. I mean, the unreliability is just built in. Like owning an old car, you either get lucky and have one that's pretty reliable, or you deal with a lot of quirks and issues, or you end up signing every other paycheck over to a mechanic to keep it running and reliable. Let's hope that's not the case with this. Packard Bell stuff was built pretty well, but it's still old, you know. I would say this is about 1965. You know, usually these sets are in the mid 60s, plus or minus 10%. As a side note, be on the lookout for a really long video attempting to repair a rectangular version of this. They made this in both roundy and rectangular. I think they did, when they rectangular CRTs came out, they just updated just some basics to make it work, like added pin cushion. Anyway, it was a set I had. The first half of the video is me struggling trying to get the green color demodulation to work right, and then the second part of the video will be the tech that adopted it, the collector that adopted it, and he gets real deep into color demodulation. So that's a video that's going to be coming up in the future. I still don't know of today if we actually fully sorted out the green color demod issue. So it's going to be interesting to put the vector scope on this one and see how the color demod looks on this one. It looks like the termites were enjoying the select hardwood solids on this set. They don't touch the particle board. They can't eat that glue. Packard Bell used chassis numbers like 98C9, 98C7. Here's the remote module right here. This is the motor to change the channel. And this could be a very low hour set. I'm looking at the color of the rear cup there. And, you know, I know some people will say, well, you know, he's full of it. The color of that rear cup has nothing to do with the strength of the CRT, but my experience is that rear cup will go blue. Let me see if I could zoom in on exactly what I'm talking about. That right there will turn blue, bluish brown, as the CRTs age. So this could be a very low hour set. Wonder what that's for. Oh, that maybe that went over this relay right here. Anyway, that. So I think what we'll do is we'll start by checking the CRT. And then we bring this thing up very slowly on a Variac. I'm in no rush. I could take a full day to bring it up. Bring it up, 5 volts every hour. Or 10 volts every hour, whatever. Looks really nice, though. I'm going to guess that this is the original CRT. This has, in fact, that's original. Hold on. I think the only tube that's been replaced is the horizontal output. Everything else is original. Everything else is original Packard Bell tubes. This was a score. Let's just hope that the CRT, there is some wax loss here, not a whole lot. This is basically a RCA CTC 16 is what this is. Basically a CTC 16 circuit. Uses pretty much all the same sweep circuits, and there is a little bit of difference with the color demod. I think they use a triode instead of a pentode, and there's just a few little modifications probably to get their licensing fee down, their RCA licensing fee. If this were my set, I would see how that vent goes through to the screen underneath. I would mount a little muffin fan right there, little like 4-inch 110 volt muffin fan blowing up through the flyback cage. You're not going to sacrifice your X-ray protection or anything doing that, and the air would blow in there and it would come out the top here and help cool the TV, and that would really increase the longevity of that flyback. Just to get a baseline here, I just got a feeling this thing is just going to blow this right up. Well, maybe I was wrong with that. You could say, well, it's been sitting for 50 years and, grandma didn't use it once they stopped playing whatever show she liked, but the odds are, I think this came from an estate sale, the odds are whoever was in charge of the estate sale just plugged it in and turned it on, because they're probably like, well, it'll bring more money if it makes some light or static on the screen. So I'm going to give this a few minutes and just see what happens. But see the way blue just woke up? I kind of would have expected, by looking at the set, for all 3 of them just to wake up like that. Interesting what's going on here. Red came up to about 0.8 and then started dropping back down. Blue has been stable. I'm not going to try and clean or rejuvenate this thing. Better not to risk it. We'll just leave it and see how the picture looks. I don't want to risk damaging someone else's CRT with some type of, frivolous short-term, whatever you want to call this. I mean, we tend to worship this thing, but I still want to be cautious. Okay, a correction. I moved the socket around a little bit, and it kind of all just popped and woke up. So maybe I wasn't making good connection there with my plug onto the pins of the CRT. Little crusty, corrody doodle, high resistance action. I pulled the horizontal output tube out, and I decided I'm going to go with a dim bulb because I like the way it current limits a little bit better than Variac. Variac really doesn't current limit, it more voltage limits, which, I mean, I guess they're kind of one and the same thing, but so isn't this a neat dim bulb tester that somebody hooked me up with, a viewer slash friend .com. So we got a 60 watt bulb in there, we got the horizontal output tube out, and I'm going to power it up here. And wow, that almost seems like a dead short. So what I'm gonna, maybe I'll put my voltmeter on it. And I could just hear it right now. The first thing you should do before you plug it in is change all the capacitors. Yeah, just like, take it to someone who cares. These electrolytics are far better than anything you can buy today, and they just last and last and last. Not saying they can't go bad, but it's rare. So let's see, what is our... This is our voltage going into the TV. You can see how it's kind of slowly creeping up as the filaments heat up, and so that's the nice thing about the light bulb. The light bulb will kind of current limit and just let it naturally flow to where it wants to. You can see it's just kind of coming up. Let me see if the remote module is on or off. So that's the remote module on. That's the remote module off. So we'll leave it off. So we're at 18, we're climbing, so we're almost to 19 volts. Let's give it a half an hour or something like that. And we're kind of current limiting here at about, what, 500 milliamps through a 60 watt bulb. This sounds like a butt dial from something. Hello, do you hear me? Hello? We'll just let that ride. Anyway, I went in the house and started playing with something. Oh, this thing is listening to me right here. Do you copy? May I speak to John McAfee, please? Hello? John McAfee, is that you? Anyway, this has been sitting for over an hour, and you can see it's worked its way up to 27 volts. I think it was 19 when we left it, so I'm ready to go up to the next size bulb. And when I say 27 volts, that's our voltage, line voltage going into the TV. And I should probably offer a correction there on the capacitors. If this was a 1940s or 50s set, even early 60s, full of black beauties and wax paper or paper ceramic capacitors. All paper capacitors have to go for longevity. For temporary resurrection, not so much, but if you're going to use it, you have to recap paper capacitors. So I should probably straighten that out. Okay, I've gone up to, I believe, 100 watt, and that took us up to 42 volts and climbing. I've been on this bulb for quite a while now, another couple hours. I'm going to go up to a 200. I'm at 47.3 volts, and it doesn't seem to be doing much. So let's go up to the 200. So here we go. And that shot us right up to 80 volts, 81 volts, 82 volts. Yeah, these are thirsty. These color TVs are thirsty. They want 300 watts. That's what the horizontal range. So I'm going to let it sit at 80 volts for a while. Nothing is getting warm. The caps are staying cold. I'm reforming them very slowly. Like I said, over the course of about a day. We have crept up to 86.8 volts. I'm just going to leave it for now. Wait for the sun to go down. And then we'll come out here and fire it up. We'll do cathode current as we bring it up. I've moved up to this photo flood, and I believe that this is a 500 watt lamp. All it says is 6 hours life on it. I've also installed a cathode current test adapter on the horizontal output tube, so I can watch my cathode current or plate current, kind of the same thing. In resurrecting so many of these old sets, you know, this is kind of the number one thing that you need to pay attention to on a set like this, is your horizontal output tube cathode current. This will tell you so much about the high voltage part of the set, which is where the failures usually occur. So, you know, I got a mark there. We really don't want to go over 180 milliamps on this, and I'll try and walk you through what I see, but here we go. Power, 3, 2, 1, power. We are 99 volts and climbing through the 500 watt bulb, which is good. Okay, now we really want to watch this more than anything else on the TV. And the resistance of that bulb, we're at 100 volts AC input right now. I'll probably bring this down here, maybe not. It's kind of creeping up. 98 volts. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the bypass switch on the light bulb. And I believe I heard the high voltage come up. We're definitely not we have no sound whatsoever. Totally quiet. Well, I was going to say we probably had about a 70% chance of this set just working right out of the box without needing component replacement, but it doesn't seem like that's quite the truth. This thing is emitting an interesting smell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this here, and I want to see, that's a horizontal frequency, and I want to see it is definitely changing the current. So that would suggest the horizontal oscillator's running. I don't think I want to screw with that. I was going to pull that tube out, but if I turn this, it is definitely adjusting that current. So I would say the horizontal oscillator is running. Doesn't seem to do anything. Nothing. Screen is dark. There's a little activity from the sound when you move the volume control, but it's pretty quiet. You know, I just wonder. Gotta let the tubes on that thing warm up. This thing is we have an open resistor in one of the B+ lines. There's a couple IF tubes back up in here that if they weren't making contact, the filaments on in that one. Let's see. You always want to start by jiggling your tubes, because poor connection in a tube socket will make you think the world's come to an end, and it's not. But this thing is just freaking quiet. It's the audio output. I only got 74 volts here on the CRT, and I think that should be up around 300. Okay, I unplugged the yoke and I hooked the vertical deflection part of the yoke, and I hooked a speaker up to it. So that's a vertical oscillator. Let's see, we should be able to, oh, look at that. Maybe I want to turn the brightness down. Okay. Let's see, vertical hold. Maybe it's just a very weak horizontal output tube. Our vertical is definitely running. I got the high voltage probe here, and we're at we're low. We're at about what, 18 or so, which is low. I can try another horizontal output tube. You know, the low cathode current, it should be up here at the mark. Low cathode current is symbolic of a weak tube or some low voltage or something like that. If we had a bad flyback or a bad yoke or usually a bad capacitor, this would be real high. I changed the tube, went up a little bit. Didn't go up much here, so the regulator must be cramped down a little bit too hard. Where's the high voltage adjustment on this thing? I think it's that right there. Let's see if we can loosen up on this a little bit. Too much grunting and groaning in these videos. Actually, not really. If I go all the way that way, it just goes up a little tiny bit. So we got weak high voltage here. That thing should go up to 25 kilovolts easy. Huh. Interesting. I wonder if we got a weak rectifier or something else. If I get on the blue screen here with the blue cranked all the way up, I get 700 volts. That seems a little low. Here's what's going on with this, and this is just kind of your basic quick diagnosis. The first thing you want to check are your B pluses, and of course this thing is going to make a fool out of me because I made fun and said that the electrolytics in these things never go bad, but I have a feeling that this is due to bad electrolytics. The B plus is 280 volts, and the B plus is supposed to be 415 volts. Why would it be low? Because we have 260 microfarad capacitors that make up a voltage doubler circuit, and the majority of the time on one of these sets like this that use the capacitor doubler, and a lot of line operated sets that use this too. I mean, this is a power transformer set, but for some reason I don't know why they didn't just double the number of windings on the transformer like RCA did, but whatever, to each his own. Maybe diodes were more expensive than capacitors when this was built, because RCA used a 4 diode bridge and this uses 2 diodes and 2 capacitors. So yeah, that B plus is supposed to be 415 volts, and it's, like I say, it's measuring 281. This is a 98C8 chassis. So yeah, this thing make a fool of me. I guess I deserve it. So we're gonna have to start by changing these capacitors. One of them is probably open. You know, one of them is going to be this one in the cardboard can that's isolated from the chassis, and then one of the other two of these is going to be other part of the doubler circuit. It would be ideal if these were in perfect condition and this one was open, but might have to just do a full order complement of electrolytics on this set. You know, as far as I can tell, this thing is pure virginity. I am the first one attempting to take it apart. It still had the little wire tie there holding the wires, like all the original lead dressing is all original. This thing has never been, look at that, the washer just broke. The washer just broke in half. Look at that. This thing is like yeah, I'm popping it right now. I'm popping it. What a mess this video is. Anyway, let me see if I can get access to the back of these capacitors. And I was looking on DigiKey, you know, these are 160 at 250 volt, the doubler. And of course, there really is no 160, so you got to go to a 220, which is fine in this circuit. You can easily go up in value, just, you know, as long as they're sort of matched. So you get this one out and this whole chassis swings out. So the chassis just 3 screws and it's hinged and it just swings out. Okay, let's see here. That yellow wire is pretty neat. I like the decaying wire there. Looks a little bit higher hour back here, doesn't it? You look back here and it's like, oh, baked. But anyway, I guess I'm gonna have to lay down on the floor to get to the back of these capacitors. Okay, so the positive of X2 connects to, you can see it there, it's pointing at the floating capacitor, the one that's isolated from the chassis. Then this wire right here, this wire right here, see this wire goes to the square right there. That's the other one. So those are our 2 doubler capacitors. The first one I'm going to jump out is the cardboard cased one down there. I am powered up through the 500 watt light bulb, and I've got a, this is not high enough voltage. This is a 220 at 200. Should be a 250 volt cap, but for a few minutes it should handle it. So our B plus is 236. I'm going to add the capacitor in. Our B plus goes up to 294. Let me get another one and I'll bridge the other side. Okay, I got our 2 capacitors here, and let me let this warm up and kind of stabilize. Okay, I'm going to bypass the light bulb. Well, $390 volts. I'm going to get rid of this one. This one seems to be making no difference. So it's simply the cardboard covered one that's open. Yeah, so $390 volts, still a little bit low. interesting sound. Look at our cathode current now. This arcing right here. No, that seems, it's arcing now. Wow. We always got to have some arcing in these videos. I put the original horizontal output tube back in, and the cathode current came down and its speaker stopped making all that noise. This is the 6B and 8 right here. So this is the detector, this is the audio output. Our B plus is sitting right at 390. Pretty incredible, you know, if I disconnect this capacitor, we go down to 283 from 390. So we've got very dim to almost no raster. Well, that's interesting. I see activity. I see activity in the screen when I turn the tuner. Do we just have like a bad audio output tube or something? But I see when I turn the, that's when I turn the tuner. Maybe I'll wait until it gets dark out here and we'll look at it. So look at our high voltage now with the capacitor in circuit and the B plus up to what it's supposed to be. Look at our high voltage. A little bit high. So let me clamp down on that. It's a good thing I checked that. That's a good way to destroy the flyback. Let the high voltage run away like that. It'll compromise the insulation on the flyback. Wow. That's crimping down on it as hard as I can. I wonder if the shunt tube is bad. You don't want to let the high voltage run away like that. It's better to run it a little bit low than let it just stress the flyback insulation. Yeah, I turned the CRT bias up a little bit to help crimp down on the vertical. Look at the retrace lines in it. This thing has issues. You know, I wonder if this is a case of just someone took and twisted and turned every single knob on the thing to try and correct for the problems it had. By knob, I mean all the controls back here on this chassis. Maybe the reason why it's quiet is the AGC has got it muted out. Okay, you know what? The battery's going dead on the camera anyway. But I'm gonna try tweaking some stuff here. I don't even know if it's showing up, but let's see. That's red. That's red. That's green. It's blue. Okay, what adjustments have we got here? Sorry for me wasting your time. Sound reject, ANI height. Wonder what ANI is. Let's turn it and find out. Well, let's see, I'm going to make it brighter. Makes no difference at all. Okay, this should be vertical. Seems to make no difference at all. Then we've got two down here. Oh, AGC, AGC, come to daddy. Here we go, AGC. Makes no difference at all. Vertical linearity. By looking at the dust on these pots, I think I'm incorrect. No one has turned them. Pin cushion adjust. Sound reject. Service normal switch. Okay. There's service. So now what you want to do is you want to make sure you got one of those. So what you do is you turn the CRT bias down, and then you turn all of those up. So green and blue are the strongest ones. So you keep turning the, so it looks like blue is the strongest one. So blue will end up all the way up. Now wait, no. Backwards. Red is the weakest. So what you do is you turn red all the way up, red screen all the way up, then you bring bias up until you get a red line. So your red screen is all the way up, then you bring green up and blue up until you get a line. Like that. So red screen being the weakest. Then you flip this back. That's pretty good. But we still have totally bromelaid varmitol here. Huh. Well, that must be horrible watching that. I'm using the VG91 and I'm shoving a full 5 volts of RF into the channel 3 of the tuner, and just it ain't having it. Nothing. Now in channel 4, it almost looks like something's getting through. Guess I gotta adjust the horizontal frequency in the back. There we go. There's something getting through. It looks like color information's getting through. This thing got issues. That's the AGC, which seems to look like vertical centering. Show you what I did. I'll show you how I got a signal into it here. Just temporarily to see how it worked. So using the VG91 on the IF setting 45.75, I pulled the tube shield off of here, and I just have this sitting over the second IF tube, feeding the IF signal, just coupling it right directly through the glass. So I call this the barber polling rainbow, and that is the color oscillator being off frequency. Sometimes you can tweak the horizontal hold and get that to pop in. Let's see. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. So I need to get a tweaky tool. Okay, so I'm going to tweaky color oscillator coil, 6GH8. Actually, what I might do, where is the 6GH8? I'm going to move the 6GH8 around. Oh, cut it out. Okay, that didn't do it, so I'm going to tweaky oscillator frequency. And look at that. We have color bars. And the frickin' tint control does absolutely nothing on this. Man, this thing is a basket case. And it does not look like it has good greens. Tint control does nothing. Let me see if one of these will... Was hoping I could shift the tint, shift the phase here, and does not look like it does good greens, which is what we're struggling with the other one. Where the green at? This TV has issues, a lot of them. That's slipping it over the first IF tube, nothing. That's slipping it over the third IF tube, second IF tube, so there's, seems like the first IF stage is dead. This sucker's got issues all over the place. See if the ICP works. No. The ICP is dead. So, what just happened there? Where'd the focus go? Pots are dirty. Vertical. Brightness. This thing's got all kinds of issues. I think I'm going to break it off right there. I think I'm going to break it off right there. This sucker is plagued with issues. I really got this wrong from the very beginning. I thought, oh, this was going to be a cakewalk. Looked like a new old stock set. I thought the capacitors would be good. This thing is just a basket case. So there will be a part 2 and probably a part 3. I'd like to get it working in part 2, and then part 3 we could attack the cataract.